biggest milestones in Dream Theater's career, it's only fitting that for our big milestone, we cover the legendary Images and Words. Got the vinyl right here. Yeah, it's not the full album, but I'm broke, so yeah. We get a quick thumbnail. This is a fan favorite for all the boomers and dads out there that only know of the existence of Awaken this album. This is a fan favorite for all the cavemen out there that just love radio stuff. And this is a fan favorite for everyone in between.
When we saw Jordan Rudess, every single person over the age of 43 only had an Images and Words.
Of course, when you're getting someone into Dream Theater, the first song you have to play them is Pull Me Under. Any other song is grounds for execution. I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this one because you yourself are a victim of Pull Me Under.
And I didn't even go towards this album for the longest time. I listened to a lot of the newer ones and heavier ones and proggier ones before I even went back to the roots.
The reason I love Awake so much is because it's this stellar classic Dream Theater lineup, plus that darker, heavier, moodier sound that I'm really into. This one's much more upbeat, much more uplifting. A little campy at times, but this undisputably has some of the best Dream Theater songs on it. And is a top 3 Dream Theater album to me. Pale Blue Dot update. This is going to be our last round of Pale Blue Dot, so get them in now. Can't even tell you how cool it is placing down a dot somewhere in Wisconsin and then the next one being all the way in France or Africa or somewhere way far away. And still understanding how much we have in common. For those of you who don't know, I did a little map just because I wanted to demonstrate the worldwide reach of this stellar band. And if you drop a comment, let us know how you got into Dream Theater and where you're from. We will put you on the map in our next Dream Theater video. And you'll be put on the TV back there, which I should have done for this one, but I was too lazy. So next one. And we had to cover DT once again because when was our last album review? Like 7 months ago. And of course the 30th anniversary just passed. And like 75% of our subscribers are from our Dream Theater videos as well.
Thank you so much for watching, and thank you always for all the lovely comments and also the engagement on the Pale Blue Dot.
We have some special stuff planned for post monetization, post 1K, including potentially maybe even booking an appointment with Dr. Kevin up in North Dakota, see what he's up to.
Holy shit, that'd be insane.
So if you want to see that video, let's spread the word right after I consult with an attorney. Without further bovine excrement, I'm Darius King.
I'm Metalhead.
Pull me under. Lord Petrucci kicking things off with the sexiest clean riff of all time. And then Dr. Kevin Moore with that smooth synth solo coming over the top of the guitar.
I also love how Mike Portnoy fades in, builds up that awesome metal hardcore feel and the bass tone. This,
of course, is a very special song to me. Even though it's not the first Dream Theater song I ever heard, it's probably my most listened to. I think even this year, it's like number 3 on my most listened to on Apple Music. What a build up into that Metallica riff. Everyone has that one riff on their instrument that they just annoy the shit out of people and play over and over and over again. For me, that would be this riff. This is what I like to torture the people at Guitar Center with.
Yeah, it's like that itch. Since this is before the shrimp incident, James really just so powerful. That part especially.
During the first verse, not only do we have the excellent Shakespearean lyrics from Dr. Kevin, literally Shakespearean because they're about Hamlet, but Lord Petrucci unleashes the prog chord. That's the famous chord he talks about in all of his guitar demos on YouTube, and man, is that a sexy chord.
Prog chord of the century. You gotta know that to be able to play this style of music.
They always joke about it being like their only hit, well, at least for radio purposes, I guess, but it's just so infectious, it's so melodic, especially in the runtime is longer than most, people would really like to listen to it.
Yeah, but they did have the shitty cut-up radio edit that they did the music video to that even the band hated. But like you were showing me before when you showed your friend Doug this song and he loved it instantly, this is kind of like a portal to the prog underworld that you just don't return from. Then Lord Petrucci channeling the inner James Hetfield. My wrist breaks every time I try to downpick that. This whole video is just going to be a guitar lesson pretty much. The song is such a roller coaster. Not only does it have the huge build-ups and the huge crescendos, but Dr. Kevin takes us down beautifully and smoothly with the synth patch from earlier, expanding upon it a little bit more.
Just in my head, I was thinking about how
War inside my head.
I was also thinking about how Mike builds up so well into that part too. He's solid in every song he's in, but for this one, I feel like his drums were mic'd so well and they were just so powerful.
Absolutely, except for his snare, which I guess the label just decided, no, we need 80s pop snare here.
That's why it sounds like that?
Yeah.
It's so, yeah.
Let's give Jordan some credit here, too. When they do this live, he's able to do both of those parts, which Dr. Kevin actually overdubbed on the record. In one hand, he's doing the but he's also doing
keep the bounce going in my right hand, like.
And of course, once every 3 days, there's that one guy in the subreddit who asks why the song cuts off.
I think it was kind of a cool technique they did, but sometimes you kind of wish for more of a solid ending.
As far as my personal enjoyment, I'd say this is more in the area of a nut button, but just because of the legacy and the importance and significance of this song, and to piss a lot of you off, this one It's a 10.
The confetti. Being one of their greatest hits and one that I never skip, I have to give the Melt Button.
Yes, sir.
No.
But yeah, I heard the reason that they cut off the outro was because they said they were building to something and they didn't really know where to finish it, so they just had it cut off. Our next track is Another Day. Yes?
Sir.
Yes, sir. This is a beautiful one. It's not one that I revisit constantly because it's on that fence between like really melodic and emotional and really heavy and hardcore. And so it's not like a firm gym playlist, but nonetheless, the emotion and the beauty in it, self-evident.
I'd have to agree, yeah, the emotion and beauty is just bleeding out all over it. James's stellar performance and everything about it was just structured so well. And then the saxophone just comes out of absolutely fucking nowhere.
Like I was telling you earlier, they actually recorded this an hour from you in Suffern at the house of Jay Beckenstein, who is a sax player for Spyro Gyra, which they also recorded scenes at his house too. So I guess he was just there and they're like, hey, you wanna hop on this track?
I'm so glad they did because he killed it, especially the outro. Just when you think it's done, he throws a little more notes in there. Mike follows with a little bit of the cymbal. Oh, I thought at first, I was like, oh, that's a pretty realistic patch.
Yeah, no, there's no way in fucking hell they're getting a sax tone like that out of a 90 synth. Once again, we have a nice roller coaster song here with the big crescendos and the smoother, softer parts with Dr. Kevin and Kevin, just regular Kevin, doing the nice duet together.
Kevin and Kevin, especially Canadian Kevin, stole the show. It's such a shame that he just loved shrimps. If he could have kept something like this on some of the later albums, oh my god.
Shrimp addiction is no joke, kids. During an interview about the 30th anniversary of this album, I saw Lord Petrucci sat down with some YouTube guy and he talked about how they basically, even though it's not a concept album itself, they wrote it like a concept album. They were inspired by hemispheres. The album experience is like watching a movie. The whole thing is put together to be listened to as one piece. And what excellent placement for this one. It's always been on the playlist.
What's going on the playlist?
Months ago, there was a poll on the Dream Theater subreddit, and it was which song is better, Pull Me Under versus Take the Time. And I saw the results, and
what?
I had a stroke and died. And I'm actually Nicholas right now. That's how I'm sitting here talking to you.
How would that? You know what it probably is? It's just people that don't want to like be stands for Pull Me Under.
No, they were serious. They're like, oh no, well Pull Me Under is very important, but Take the Time has so many important parts. It's a good song. This is probably my second least favorite on the album, though. What I did notice, though, going through my refresher last night, because I usually skip this, so I didn't notice too much, is how funky this song gets, especially John Myung with a bass solo, Lord Petrucci doing some 70s funk guitar, too, and that beautiful clean section. But the reason I'd say it's not one of my favorites is because it gets really campy at some portions, especially with some of Dr. Kevin's patches that sound super, super dated, which is surprising for Dr. Kevin.
Yeah, it does have a little bit of that ballady approach.
When we started doing these reviews, I was like thinking, what would be like the literal definition of all these scores? And for 7, that's this song right here. So this one gets the seal of approval.
Yeah, this gets the seal of approval.
Surrounded?
Yep.
Yes, sir. Yeah, no, not feeling this one. This was on heavy rotation in my household growing up. This is almost like my lullaby as a kid, and it does the job. The main riff from Dr. Kevin, like, all hail Dr. Kevin, but that main riff is just not it.
If you have someone in the car with you and you want them to listen to a Dream Theater song and you want to maybe just give them that friendlier feel, then maybe this one.
How about Another Day or Silent Man
or maybe they already heard
or any of the good ones. I admire them for going more emotional with this one, but this one sounds much more goofy than, say, Another Day. For the exception, of course, of that beautiful outro. As far as rating, I'd say I can't say I wouldn't push you out of a moving car, because let's say like I'm in the car with a bunch of my caveman friends and they want to put this on to like introduce them to Dream Theater or something like that, and I just picked a random song and they picked this one, they would be getting tossed out of the car.
I wouldn't push you out of the moving car. Wouldn't be happy, but I wouldn't push you.
I got a little carried away there. To this day, one of their most proggy, and of course not to mention the godly can of worms that the song opens. It's especially cool to come back and listen to this song again after listening to Scenes from a Memory for the 378th time. Every time you come back and listen to this, you pick up on a new Easter egg from songs like Home or Dance of Eternity.
I did Scenes first before going to this album, so it was really cool to see.
They even got Santa headbanging. Lord Petrucci with the whammy bar sexiness. I love his whammy use, but I guess after this album, he forgot it was there. So many cool whammy parts on this whole album, but specifically this song.
Well, I know that you love his new Majesty, the wood tone one that looks like you ripped up a floorboard and just put some black paint around it.
Which is funny because it's actually the best looking one of the entire 2022 lineup.
I mean, I get you don't want to just keep doing the same thing, but come on.
The first color, we'll go black with blackish blue, and then black with blackish green, and then get this, black with blackish red.
$3,800, please.
Actually, the floorboard one is $5,400.
Fucking Christ.
I'd kill for literally any Majesty. My dream one though is that Imperial Blue. What were we talking about again? Oh, Metropolis. Kevin James Labrie, what a stud. One of my favorite career performances from him. One of my favorite performances from everyone, from Dr. Kevin, a Cookie Monster, to the Silent Man, everyone. Even though that really catchy, simpler main riff in the beginning is amazing, the best part of this song is, I don't even think you could call this part an explosion of prog. This is more like an atom bomb of prog. Yeah, we're gonna reuse this edit from last week. This is the kind of stuff that I absolutely love from Dream Theater. It's the kind of shit that you play in the car with your caveman friends, especially Dr. Kevin ripping across those keys at that one section. And they just look at you like, what the fuck is wrong with you, you nutcase? And you're just like, yes!
They turn their heads and they're like, how, you enjoy this?
It's an exclusive club. The masterfully structured outro. The fade out with Dr. Kevin's sexy synths. Do it again.
They did it again. Shows, even from the start, they were able to just kick ass. This one, let's go to the playlist.
Sorry, I had to fill out the comment section for you. Again, talking about me growing up with DT and the Rites of Passage Dream Theater. I remember back in the day, I watched this show with two brothers. One of them happened to be a pedophile. And the pedophile happened to play guitar, and that got me really interested and wanted to play the guitar. And I actually got that for my 7th Christmas because of that. He played a red Strat. My dad was excited, was getting into music and everything, so I showed him the pedophile.
Drake and Judd, okay.
Yes. He looked at me and said, that's not a good, let me show you a real fucking guitar player. And he put on this video, which I'm sure you've seen a million times, but I'm going to make you watch again. At least top 2 John Petrucci solos. I'd say the only one that really comes close is Breaking All Illusions for the emotion that he puts into it. But there's so many different styles that he crams into just this solo. The guy that I learned the Metropolis Part 1 riff from, he broke down each section of the solo and basically every genre that he borrowed from, whether it's jazz or funk or metal. Absolute madness.
I'm absolutely in love with the opening riff, and also the tone is just so majestic.
Yeah, with that big D.
So many things all put together perfectly. Dr. Kevin follows up the keyboards really nicely, gives it that extra fluff. It's just one of the better ones, I think, on the album because of just not just the structure, but also just the individual performances from everyone.
Yeah, with that main riff, I don't know, he was really into both octaves and whammy on this album. And shit, it worked.
Even just from looking at the name.
That was a cool name. As a kid, this was my all-time favorite Dream Theater song. Now, because I've listened to it so much, and because, of course, your taste changed, I'm not as into it as I was, but going back, again, it was that refresher last night. Going back and listening to it again really rekindled a lot of the magic that I heard in it the first time. So many excellent parts from Cookie Monster here as well. And it's got to be one of their best songs and easily one of the best on this album. This has always been on my playlist.
My playlist got fatter with this one.
Dr. Kevin's sexy masterpiece. Not one of the the sexiest piano melody I've ever heard. How many times have I said sexy in this video? I'm gonna have a sexy counter. And Dr. Kevin switching up the time signatures to 6/4 to 5/4 and even more gives this really beautiful and catchy melody a nice layer of prog. This song actually inspired me to learn keyboards in the first place. Honestly, I would have been satisfied just learning this one melody and that's it. And it balances that really fine line between the progginess and a lot of the emotion and catchiness that cavemen are into. Really moving lyrics too from Dr. Kevin discussing a friend of his that had lost a loved one and was going through a really difficult time, maybe inspired his psychology career. And even without the lyrics, the music kind of says that itself. Kevin James delivers a beautiful performance too. He doesn't do his crazy skyscraping stuff like we heard so much on this album, but he matches what Dr. Kevin is putting down perfectly. I cannot think of a better example of Nut Butt, and that's a couple slaps.
That's one thing I like about this album so far is the playlist just gets bigger.
This is Dr. Kevin's best song, by the way.
I like Space Divest.
Yeah, I'd like to disagree with you, sir.
Oh.
Especially early on, Dream Theater ended every album with an absolute banger. I'm counting Scarred as a closer because Space Divest wasn't supposed to be there. As far as my pure enjoyment, I'd say this is probably the best song on the album. Dr. Kevin gets us started with what you normally think is kind of like this goofy do patch on the JD800, but the staccato notes in 15/8 are pure genius from the Doctor himself. And when Lord Petrucci and Cookie Monster come together, it almost flanges with Dr. Kevin's melody. Kevin James Labrie. There was no time for strength. Going from that all the way to the famous F sharp. Versatility on full display.
You know, Kevin James, of course, is, especially this in Awake, he just absolutely kills it.
And how about those sexy lyrics by John Myung, the silent man himself?
Best lyricist in Dream Theater.
I know we were talking a lot about roller coasters. This whole album is just a theme park. This is the biggest roller coaster of them all. This is like the death coaster, you know, like the suicide coaster. That's this song. The sexy solo after that F sharp. The sexy. Okay, that's at least 15. Harmonic outro and the beautiful, beautiful fade out.
Going on the playlist.
Overall, it's easy to see why this is such a fan favorite. It has some of the catchiest songs, plenty of twists and turns. It's not as dark and aggressive and heavy as Awake, so it doesn't scare off the women as much, but it still has the power and flair to get all the metalheads going. How many songs are going on your playlist now?
Half the album, a little more. It's a very coherent album with great production and mix. The prog levels were great, and the structure of each song was just so well thought out and melodic. And for, you know, not a debut album, but kind of a debut album, it hits the mark perfectly, and it lays the foundation for all the greatness that came after it. Each member really soared in their performances, and it's easy to see why they have had such a successful career and such a loyal fan base.
Even though it is definitely top 3, it's not my favorite Dream Theater album. The other ones are definitely more niche, have stuff for specific people. Other than some moments of Take the Time and Surrounded, there's not really a dull spot on this whole album. I'd have to give this one a firm slap of the nut button.
This one is going on my playlist.